Hello everyone, and welcome to my Elite Dangerous Odyssey first impression video. So, what I'm going to talk through initially in these first roughly 10 minutes is obviously a broken up section of the gameplay that I've got here, which I have to admit, first of all, I struggled with. Because the first thing I'm going to mention is the frame rate. Frame rate's not the greatest. Now, unfortunately, there's not much really I could do about it. I changed some of the settings and still found it to be very difficult to play. However, I will give Frontier a tiny little pass here, just a tiny little pass, because I'm running it in 4K, so I have to expect as well, whether any game that I play or this one, that I'm gonna get some frame rate issues on a big launch like this for a piece of content or a major update. So as you can see here, I'm looking up, and I go back down, it starts to crap out on me basically. So there we go, right? So it's very situational in terms of where you're looking, which is actually good, which is great, I should say, because that sort of shows to show that there is improvement that can be made, and hopefully it won't be too major for them to change that. So I'm going to look at the HUD and everything what I'm doing here. So first of all, I like the way the breath is coming up on the screen. I like the reflections there on the sides and the helmet. You can see things later on. And this is a very straightforward and comprehensive tutorial. So it's going through giving you all this, and I like the guy talking to you, which helps quite a bit. So then we move on to this with the guns. Straight away, they look great. Everything is as clean and as crisp as I'd expect it to be, given this universe. And what I like here is these clips here of me showing you the initial stages of me walking into this facility. It's dark, so again, they're giving you the whole control spiel. And then how obviously the lighting looks, which it looks pretty damn good for what it is, because this game's never been really that detailed. It's all been crisp and clean, which I think has helped made it look better, which I've enjoyed. And this bit here is what I like the most, because you come to this SRV and you have to take out a component. But before you do that, you have to actually equip this tool to cut open the panel, which I thought was a nice little touch. Now, I'd like to see more of this across the spectrum, and I'll mention this again towards the end of the video, but I like the fact that it gives you a glimpse into what's possible. Now, I don't know how this is going to work, I don't know how much more of this we're going to see, but I'm looking forward to it. It's a very cool little addition, because it means then it opens up more for missions and things that I'm assuming they're going to add later on. And look, see, every single one of those components there are actually mapped and modeled, so I have to take out what is the regulator drawer to take out the power component, which is what I need. And then I look at some of the other ones here because I was curious, and as you can see, I could have taken them. I don't think they were actually allowing me to take it though, but I would like to think that they would have let me. So that's the kind of thing that I'm sort of looking at. I was like, okay, this looks like it could be quite interesting. I put the shields on by accident, it's my mistake, but I knew then where the button was when I needed it, because as I'm sure you can guess, you get attacked. So it's pretty straightforward really with regards to how everything is structured. So when you get further into this, there's more things that they teach you and then show you. So there's energy clips there, because if you see to the bottom left, you can see there is an O2 meter, and then above that is the energy for your suit. So I've not used very much here at this point, but they tell you anyway to equip it. And this little radio menu, which I thought was quite cool. It's a little bit weird with the mouse. Those I'd imagine that playing it with a controller will probably find it much easier, because the thumbstick, you'll just point it in the direction you want it to be. The mouse, it felt a little bit more janky, but nothing major. It wasn't too bad. So I like that though, because again, all the icons show you what's what. It's all pretty straightforward. And again, it's making you use the tool again that I used before to turn the power on to the facility. And this one again, the cutting tool. It feels like what it does is that you don't have to actually follow it per se. It locks you into where it cuts. So all I had to do was just move the mouse, but I somewhere had made a mistake because I ended up going around it again. But I like, again, that it's being used in different ways. Just comes back to why I'm looking forward to so much of using these little things, these little support tools. And it's like in a minute when I come up to it that I have to go inside and I have to put in the core that I took out from the SRV. Oh, this is a cool little bit. I had to turn the device to a different setting to illegally overcharge the panel, which I thought was that, but it turns out it's that down there. So, and obviously that comes into the whole illegal play of like the black market and things like that, you know, what we've previously been doing. So I like this because they're still sort of giving you the option to commit piracy, let's say. And that to me again is what's hopefully going to be quite fun, because there'll be missions that you can do, or if you're out with your friends, or even of course again by yourself, you can access pretty much anything anywhere, providing that you've got the ability to do so. So they're not limiting you either, which is why I was so excited for this expansion, because it's going to show off a lot of what we can do, and I'm quite looking forward to it. And this part here, I'm basically just putting the power back on. That's what I'm doing, which is why I took it out of the SRV. So once I put the power back on, and then continue going through the facility, and I just like that even the little screens there are detailed and they're animated for everything. And again, this is very telling that there's going to be things like this happening later on in game with the with all the expansions. So much here to take in as well. You know, I'm using devices to open up panels. I'm using them to charge things, to gain access to things. I skipped quite a large chunk here, by the way, because all I did was like turn the oxygen off and then switch it back on again. And then I ran through the rest of this building, get upstairs, download some data, and then now, of course, the ship's coming in. So, again, this is one of those that it's quite cool, this little bit, because I sort of looked at it, saw the Diamondback come down, drop off 5 guys, and I went, right, so 5 hostiles should be pretty easy. But again, bear in mind that I am currently running this game at less than 30 FPS. I probably was at 20 at this point, looking at the frame rate. So this fight ran on for a lot longer than it should have done, because I was struggling to hit things. So that's quite important. Again, I want to reiterate that I am running this in 4K. So I expected this, but I would imagine that if I'd actually dropped it to 1080p, for example, that I still would have struggled probably with the frame rate. I don't know that for certain. I didn't try. My main thing was just making sure that I stayed alive, and that I could fight off the hostiles and then move on. Which again, coming back to the HUD as you're watching this, it's all pretty self-explanatory as well. It's all laid out like you'd expect. There's some extra little details there that I wasn't expecting when I loaded it up as well. It all looks quite great. So you got your compass at the top with your markers for your objective. You got things for temperature, the gravity, which again is all very cool. You got your longitude and latitude there as well, which again you kind of needed to know anyway when you were just using your ship, because sometimes it could be quite cool to do that sort of thing when you're playing with friends. Again, usually that's the whole point of the wing beacons and stuff. It just negates that out, but it's nice to have that there for those that are a bit more hardcore. Again, all your settings down the bottom left. I don't know about all those icons above the suit. I'm assuming that's the power that's being used. I could be wrong. Oxygen never went down because obviously I was always in an environment where the oxygen was fine, and of course that includes the suit. So I didn't have to worry about that at all while during this, but that's something to take note in the future. So I finished this up. And then I think his name's Dylan. He comes back down, and it really goes to show what the scale is for all these ships, and like how small they make you feel. And I love that for as long as this game's been out for, that still makes me excited. Because as I'm running up to this ship, it's a Cobra Mark 4, slightly bigger than the 3. But as I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. Like how small. So you see in my next video as well how I compare myself to my Anaconda. Right? Again, obviously a bigger ship. But this is where it gets interesting. This was a glitch this first time I tried this. Maybe a bug more likely. So I felt like, okay, I did it again. So it is what it is. It's what I expect. Oh, like I did last time. Well, there you go then. That is the opening to Odyssey. Not as smooth as I wanted it to be, but I guess it is what it is. So I bashed on it a little bit at the beginning for the frame rate, and that was still the case. In fairness to me, I've had no problem running this game on planetary surfaces when I was flying around before this came out. So I'm just going to chalk it up to the fact, like I've said now a couple of times, that it's a brand new update, quite a big update. It was about 40 odd gig. So, you know, that's going to come with problems and issues. But because I'm on the upper end spectrum of, let's just say, resolution, which makes a massive difference here, that it tanked. I've usually always been at a constant 60 F with VSync linked on, which usually, it can depend on the game, but in this case, for Elite Dangerous, it taxes my GPU a little bit more, because even though the game is incredibly optimized when you're doing everything, it has to work harder to get rid of the cutting of the screen, you know, to make everything stay, so every frame is perfect, basically. So you think about it, that's 60 frames a second. It's a lot of work the GPU has to do. And you can't see it here, but I've got the performance overlay up for NVIDIA, and it says even in the main menu, GPU utilization is at 97%. So the game, they've coded the game so it uses everything. So, and that's a good thing. You want your GPU to be used 100%, because that means then you're using everything that the GPU can give, right? That's what the GPU is designed for. That's what it can do. That's what it's meant to do. But when you're using all of that and your render latency, which is the bit that NVIDIA have put on here, which is the important part, when that's at like 50 ms, it's not great. And again, I'm only in the menu, so it doesn't really matter all too much. But in the game, because I've not used this overlay before in Elite Dangerous, this is going to be new to me, learning what I get. I'm assuming it's not going to be at 50 or 60 when I'm flying around in a ship. When I get back down to the planet, it's probably going to go up again. So I know I've got to change my settings. That's going to be the big factor here. I've had everything on like ultra and high before. It's not necessary. I had it on there, to be honest with you, because I was curious to see how well it would work for me when I'm doing the planetary surface runs, you know, in the ships. But now that obviously I can get out of the ship and run around, they're obviously going to have to change. I'm going to have to drop those settings down to like high and medium, you know, most likely medium, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. Again, I'm running it in a higher resolution than most other people are, so I have to obviously take that hit. But I do think the biggest problem here at the moment is the fact that it's brand new. And that because it's brand new, that's what the problem is. Because I'm going to go and have a look to see what it's like flying around. And I'm going to see if that's changed at all. It shouldn't have done. Because all they've given us is the ability to go into on foot in a first person mode, let's call that. So it shouldn't have changed. But we'll see. But I was impressed with the tutorial. Very straightforward to the point. It gives you a little niggle here and there of what else you can expect to do. Whether or not the freedom, let's say, of opening up the panels for stuff is going to be accessible almost every turn, I don't know. You know, does that mean then you could go up to someone's SRV, whether they're in it or not, and tamper with it and take out parts, stop them from using it? Or could you do it to their ship? I don't know yet. It'd be cool to find out though. But again, I normally play this either by myself or with a few other groups of friends here and there in their groups. So obviously we're not going to sabotage each other unless maybe we're doing it for a bit of fun. So I don't think I'll have experiences with other players that I don't know, but I'd be curious to see if it is actually modeled that way, because I would like to think maybe Frontier have done that. It's one of those, it's have to wait and see kind of thing. But yeah, impressed with the opening. I thought it was good, apart from the frame rate issue, which is what made my fight run on a little bit longer than it should have done. There's a glitch there, or a bug. Well, I want to call it a glitch, maybe. It could still be a bug. That, of course, when I got into Spike Dylan's ship, whatever his name was, I think it was Dylan, just for simplicity's sake. First time I went, there was no talking or anything, just got in, flew off, nothing. Whereas this time, as I've done it, he's actually talked on the way there, which is what I was expecting anyway. And then, of course, dropped me off. Wasn't, of course, expecting the blackout loading screen back to the main menu. But yeah, other than that, I'm looking forward to playing more of it, obviously, and I'm looking forward to see what it is that they've put in yet that obviously they haven't announced, because they're good at doing that with previous updates as well. So, watch this space, and hopefully you'll see more of me soon. Thank you for watching.